again for having me. We're really excited to meet with you guys. So yeah, my name's Summer Williams. I work with the Georgia Department of Agriculture, and I actually I just started in October of 2021, and I previously worked with the Florida Department of Agriculture since 2007, and I actually started there as a college student. I took just a random part-time position at the department while I was in school, working an administrative job answering phones. And then I graduated from Florida State University. And then I just stayed working there and worked myself up through the ladder. And here I am working for Georgia now. So I'm really excited to be working with our internship program. I love getting new faces into our department and learning from the younger generation too, because I once was your age. And it's always great to have fresh faces. So going to talk a little bit about our internship program. Feel free to chime in with questions. You can unmute yourself, use the chat box. Personally, I was an environmental science major, and I work with the Division of Food Safety. That's my primary job. I work in emergency response and emergency management, specifically to food safety. So if there's something like a natural disaster or a foodborne outbreak or a major food recall, like, we had the infant formula last year, the Jif peanut butter, things like that. We organize our teams to work on responding to that. So if, for instance, a recall with the Jif peanut butter, we send our teams out to all the retail facilities that we regulate, all your grocery stores, even places like CVS, convenience stores will even sell peanut butter, Dollar General, that type of thing, and make sure that the unsafe product is off the shelves. Anyway, that's my usual typical day job, but I also work with our interns. So I have a little presentation. It's not very long, so we'll have plenty of time for questions as well. I put this picture in here. This is actually some of our student interns from last summer, which seems like it was yesterday, but we're almost to a year now. And they've come from all different schools across Georgia, which is really great to see them all working together. And I'll tell you a little bit about some of the field trips we have them go on. A lot of them work together and they meet new friends and they network, and it's a really great opportunity. I know within our division at Food Safety, we have had interns since 2012. So this is not a new thing for us. We've been hosting interns for years. I don't have numbers on how many interns we've had over the years, but this is a good picture right here. This wasn't even all of the interns that we had last summer. This was just one of the trips that they went on and the ones that were available that day. But on average, I would say each summer we have about 8 to 10. It was a little lower in the last few years with the pandemic, but last year I think we had 10. And this year we expect to have more. So like I said, several schools, several different majors across the board, which is really cool to kind of meet each other and see the different things that everyone's learning. And like I said, we all work together. We have several different sections in our department. And like I said, it ranges a lot from what we regulate within the department. And those are things like our animal health side, food safety, which is where I work, plant protection, structural pest. We've got our laboratories, which is super cool. We've got 2 labs in the state, one down in Tifton and one in Atlanta. And so we have staff at our laboratories in both cities, and they work on things department wide. So they will take, for instance, from food safety, we have our retail inspectors collect samples of food products at the grocery stores at random, like let's say a bagged salad, and they will send it to our lab, and our lab will test it for foodborne pathogens. So with salad, we usually test for things like listeria. And that's just in the food safety section. We've got all kinds of things that our lab tests: soils, fertilizers, seeds, pet food, all kinds of stuff. So our lab stays super busy. And like I said, there's 2 locations. Got our communications section as well. I will, at the end of this, I'll drop a link to our webpage. They work on press releases, social media. We just got a brand new commissioner, Tyler Harper. He just started last month, or was it this month? No, it was January. So he's fresh to the department, and he is very eager to communicate with consumers in Georgia and with our industry partners. And he's younger. He's 36. Our previous commissioner was older, so I feel like he's bringing a lot more communication and like technology to our department, which is really great. Um, Speaking of technology, we have the IT section. Obviously, we all are working virtually and in the field and at the office, and we have all kinds of IT equipment. We also have a GIS program. Um, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the GIS projects that some of our interns have worked on. What else? Legal services. We have attorneys that work with us. Of course, we're a state agency, so we have to have a finance section. Got to get paid somehow, and we pay for all kinds of things. With all the funding, I personally have grants that I work with every day from the FDA. So our finance section also works with grant funding throughout the different divisions. And administrative things like human resources and, the typical things that you need to run an office with. I think I covered everything. It's kind of jumbled there. Licensing, they handle all of the places that we regulate within the department. So like I keep talking about grocery stores because I work for food safety. If you own a grocery store or a convenience store or any place that sells food that's not a restaurant, we regulate those folks, and you have to pay for a license every year and keep up with your permit and pay those fees. So that's what our division of licensing does. And then we've got our marketing department as well. You've probably seen that logo, that Georgia grown logo at the grocery store or pretty much everywhere. That is where our marketing department has been to stamp their logo. They make sure that, at the grocery store, we try to get all the grocery stores to buy from local farms, or if you go to your local farmers market, and you see that Georgia grown logo, that means that we have worked with a local farm within the state of Georgia and they've provided food to you, which is really great. All right, now I think. So our main office is actually right here. You can see a picture of it. It is in downtown Atlanta. As you can see, I'm at my house right now. I actually live in Florida still, but I'm like just at the state line, almost to Georgia and Tallahassee. So we do have staff that work across the state, from home, remotely. We have, inspectors as far as food safety goes. Our inspectors are all over the state. But our main administration office is in downtown Atlanta. And we also have that laboratory down in Tifton. That's where our other office is, down in South Georgia. And besides the lab, we have other offices in that same building. So as far as our internships are offered, we have two primary locations, working out of the Atlanta office and working from the laboratory office down in Tifton. We don't typically hire remote interns just because it's a lot, to us, it's a lot easier to learn and to teach our interns in person, and we do a lot of in-person trainings and field trips and things like that. So it was a little tough during the pandemic when we were all virtual. We made it work, but it wasn't the best. To me, it wasn't the best learning atmosphere for our interns. So for our summer internship, which is what I'm here to talk about today, they typically last about 10 to 16 weeks, starting in May, and ending in usually late July, early August. We do give the opportunity to extend the internship. So, and I know we've done that in the past with our division. We had an intern actually right when I started, who extended through the fall semester because she was so awesome. We didn't want to let her go, and it worked with her school schedule. So we did extend her as well. We also have interns that ended up taking full-time jobs with us. Plenty of interns. We actually have one that is a deputy director for one of our divisions that started as an intern. So I love to tell that story. It's super cool. She started with food safety too, which is even better. I keep talking about these really cool field trips that we go on. I call them field trips, but I guess there's probably a better term for it. But we like to show our interns different things in the department. So why you might work for the IT section or our communications section, we really want to show you all the different things that we cover in the department. Um, so one of the places that we really like to take everyone, of course, is across the street from our building, which is the state capitol building. Obviously, that's where a lot of the brains and our legislative session and all that works together. So we like to show that off and take our interns over there. We take them on a guided tour. We've also gone to the Atlanta State Farmers Market, which is just south of our main office in Atlanta. And that's actually where they are, I believe, in the bottom photo. And so we actually regulate the farmers market as well. So we take you on a guided tour and show you about all the ins and outs of the farmers market and some of the things that ag is in charge of. And then I think they do a lunch at the end, which is pretty cool. On the top photos, those are some of our interns. Those are from 2 years ago. They visited Jaymore Farms, which is on like the northeast side of Atlanta. And it's a produce farm. And it's one of those really cool farms that you can do, you can pick your produce items, fresh pick, and then you can also go to the little market, and there's also a place where you can eat lunch and things like that. So we always like to do a tour of that. Last year, one of the newer things that we added to our list was the Georgia Poultry Lab, which is up in Gainesville. It's a brand new facility. I wasn't able to go last year to that one, but for the folks that are interested in animal science, it's really up your alley. It's basically one of our big industry partners that we work with, and they do a lot of lab testing on poultry products. The last year, we've had 2 outbreaks of avian influenza, which is never fun to deal with. But they're one of our main response partners with that as well, and they've been super busy. I didn't put it on this list, but we are hoping this year to also take the interns to the State Emergency Operations Center, which is basically a building in Atlanta where all of the emergency response work happens. So of course, that's near and dear to my heart because that's what I do. But if there's something like a hurricane coming towards Savannah, we get all of our regulatory agencies within the state together, and we all work together. You've probably seen pictures of it on the internet, and you've kind of probably seen it in shows before. It almost kind of looks like NASA with all the big screens, and everyone works together on preparing and responding to an emergency. And it doesn't have to be a natural disaster, but I always use that as, an example. So we do like to do all kinds of fun stuff and show our department off to our interns. And other things other than, some of the stuff listed, within food safety, we take our interns out on inspections. So like on an everyday experience, one of our inspectors will go out and, what they do is they inspect a grocery store. So, a day in the life of the inspector, they'll go out and take our interns and, maybe that day they decide they're going to go to Kroger and walk through and show them how they go through their checklist and how they inspect the grocery store, or we've taken them to convenience stores. We also do manufacturing facilities, so things like bakeries, or we have I was just thinking off the top of my head, Chicken of the Sea, where they make the tuna cans, things like that, which is a really mind-blowing kind of eye-opening experience to kind of see that. We also regulate dairy farms. So where you go and they make the milk, and it's not, what you think, just like someone milking a cow. It's all robotic machinery, and it's really cool to see in person. I mentioned Jaymore Farms. We also have other farms across the state, a lot in South Georgia too, as far as produce farms. And depending on the season, we can take you to some cool farms as well. So that's probably the best thing I think besides our fun field trips is kind of seeing what a day in the life of an inspector is. And you don't have to work for food safety as an intern to do that. You can go on one of those inspections if you're within a different division too. And we have other divisions that do inspections. Our structural pests, they go out and inspect for pests under houses and things like that. You can see in that top photo, that was one of the interns from last year that was on an inspection. And he actually just got hired as a full-time employee. He just graduated and he loved doing it so much, he decided to join our team. So it's a really cool story. So yeah, we talked about what they'd be doing. And like I said, we like everyone to kind of learn about other parts of the department. So I just met with our laboratory director the other day, and last year they didn't have any interns that applied to be in the lab, and she was kind of sad about it, but she was excited because some of the other divisions had folks that were interested in the lab, and so they went and spent, a day with the lab techs and got to work with them sampling and things like that. It's a really great opportunity. I like to show this picture off. It's a very old photo, but that guy in the middle who looks so tiny, that is Brandon. He is now our GIS manager for the department, and he started as an intern with food safety. So I love to show off this photo. He grew. He started with food safety as an intern and then worked actually this position that I'm in. He moved to that and then decided to go work with our GIS team, and now he's managing them. So I wanted to kind of talk about some of the things that our interns do in my realm. So I explained to you that we do rapid response, which is emergency response, work with food safety, and I work with recalls a lot. So we've had some of our interns work on, we have like a weekly recall newsletter that goes out to consumers. Anyone can sign up for it, and it's basically a newsletter that goes out and talks about anything that has been recalled that week. For food products, we use MailChimp, which is our little newsletter database thing that we use. I also work with social media for food safety. We've had some of our interns work on social media postings. We also, since I work with a grant program, we have a scientific poster that we have to present every year on an emergency response or an outbreak that we've worked on. And we've had an intern in the past help us, set up that poster, which is super helpful. We've had them work on SOPs, operating procedures, and memorandums of understanding. And now that we're back to real life again, I guess I could say post-pandemic, we're really ramping up our in-person events and trainings and meetings and things like that. And we, in the past, have always used interns to help kind of organize that and help us get people registered and things like that if we have trainings or meetings and coordination. So those are just some of the things that we've had our folks work on. I know some of you guys are in the IT realm, so I kind of wanted to talk about what our past two interns did. And this was kind of over the time of the pandemic, so it worked out well that it was kind of more of a virtual internship program at the time, but like I said, it was kind of hard because we weren't in person all the time. But we had two of our interns work on some database projects. One was working on our dairy program, all the sampling that they do. So they also collect samples just like our regular retail food inspectors. And most of their samples are milk products at the farming facilities, cheeses, ice creams, all the good stuff with milk in it, all the dairy stuff. And that also goes to our lab for testing. So we have a database where we keep track of what products are getting tested, where each product came from, the date it got sampled, the results, all kinds of stuff like that. And we have a database that our inspectors use, and then we connect that with the results of the lab data. And so that database kind of needed some love, shall I say. So our interns helped kind of help us reformat and reorganize it a little bit. So it helped us work better with our lab division on getting information back and forth. And one of the other things they worked on was also our retail sampling. So, like I told you, some of our retail inspectors will pull samples of things like bag salad or whatever from a grocery store. Same thing, we also have a database where we collect all that information. We look for trends. So, a lot of things with food safety is seasonal. So you might see, late spring, we're getting into strawberry season, the berries, things like that. You start seeing trends of foodborne pathogens because those types of products are getting more popular and they're in season. So we will try to pull samples of those types of items while they're in season to make sure that we are, not having anyone sick in the state of Georgia. And that database also needed some love. So we had our interns working on cleaning up that database as well. And again, this is all, we've got our lab division and you've got our division and we share data together, but we needed to clean it up and it really helped us out. We had another intern that came from Georgia State and she had a background in GIS and she was really interested in learning more about GIS. So we connected her with Brandon, which you saw a picture of, our intern that's now a program manager, and they worked together on creating some GIS databases and some dashboards. So this is actually a dashboard that we had. This is from, I believe, a tornado outbreak. And we use Survey 123, which you guys probably already know what that is, but it's a way for us to collect data and it will automatically feed into ArcGIS and this dashboard for us to, it helps us use it for planning purposes. So if there's an emergency, we can see where the major problem areas are, which places are okay, and maybe we should start focusing on a different area if we've got something like a tornado. Or the thing with food safety is we're focused on power outages. If you lose power and you have all your food in the fridge or all your food in the freezer and you've lost power for 8 hours or more, your food starts going bad. So that's our main focus. We don't want, a grocery store or a convenience store, someone to sell food that had, been without power for a very long time. So that's our focus for our emergency staff while we're out doing things. So this has been great. We actually just unfortunately had to use it with the Griffin tornado that came through last month, but it was so helpful that we had this dashboard set up. It really helped us out. We also made a dashboard for our recalls. So like I told you earlier, we have, if there's a major recall like the peanut butter recall or the infant formula last year, we have our team go out and start making sure that it's off the shelf. So we also use Survey 123 for that and use that to help us plan and see where we need to go next. So yeah, our GIS work was awesome last summer. I'm very thankful for our interns and all the work they did. So that's just a little bit about some of the intern work that ours did in food safety. So I wanted to drop this in. We also hire for full-time jobs and we're always hiring. Yeah, anyone have any questions?
What is the pay for the internships?
So that's a good question. It actually depends on who is hiring. I believe last year we paid $12 an hour. So I'll go with that because that's, I believe, what we use. But sometimes different divisions, and I think it kind of depends on finances and stuff in each division. But
Is there a uniform, or I would assume like some sort of dress code of some kind for the interns?
We don't have a specific uniform. Now, I will say if you're going, on an inspection or something like that, we want people to wear, closed-toed shoes. We usually give like a polo or a button-down shirt with our logo on to our interns if they're going to go, do something where we're doing regulatory work. So it, they shows that they're wearing a uniform. Business casual, like no shorts or anything, but
Are there GPA requirements of any kind?
there's not.
I didn't see that, so that's why I wanted to ask.
Yeah, there's not. We do ask for resumes and a writing sample. And so it's kind of just like a job application. If you've got, 4 or 5 people that apply for one division and they're only intending to hire one intern, they will probably look at them and kind of compare, and obviously we'll be interviewing folks as well.
Yeah, well, it seems like y'all are willing to work with students in pretty much any way, as far as like all the different types of divisions and being able to work with them even after they've graduated. And it's just, yeah, you got a lot of great opportunities here. And I tell students too, like, sometimes look for part-time jobs as well as internships, because if the part-time job is related to your field of study, it's not that much different. So yeah, you all might want to take a look at some of those part-time job openings as well, especially if you're about to graduate soon, if you're about to potentially graduate soon. So yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing this information. Yeah, it's great to see all the different kinds of opportunities you all have.